have received an email as well. Tomorrow we will have an extra class from 7 to 11 a.m. The class that was scheduled for the 7th of November, 6th of November instead would be our last class. 7th of November, I've got some important work for which I need to travel. That is why we will have an extra class tomorrow from 7 to 11 a.m. so that we can finish the lectures in 25 classes. But the last class would be on the 6th of November. Okay? How do you manage the finance? Done. Now let's look at financial administration. And as the name suggests, how do you manage the finances of the state? How do you better administer the finances of the state? That is what is known as financial administration. And one important tool of financial administration is budget. But before that, Kautilya, in Artha Shastra, what does he write? He says, all undertakings depend on finance. Hence, foremost attention should be paid to the treasury. Every act of state involves money. If we have to provide welfare, for that we need money. If we have to provide security to the people, for that we need money. If we have to provide services to the people, for that we need money. For everything, money is important. Finances are important. That is why Kautilya says in Arthashastra that the most important attention should be paid to the treasury, where the money is stored. Morstein Marx, he says finance is as involved in administration as oxygen is in atmosphere. Without the presence of oxygen in the atmosphere, can we breathe? We can't. Can administration run without money, without finances? It's a no-brainer. Absolutely, it can't function. But when we look at expectations, tell me one by one, what do you expect from the government? Let's say from central government, what do you expect? Welfare, spend on health, welfare schemes, free education, employment, better standard of living, education, health, security, good education, better infrastructure, initiative, good policies, inclusive development, good governance, scholarship, sustainable development, very good, employment, development, health, responsible government, education, expenditure, so on and so forth. Which means primarily, number one, there is no end to your expectations. You want everything from the government, from jobs to education to better infrastructure, roads, highways, better airports, everything. But there is always a limit. To the amount of money that you have. So what you expect from the government, there is no limitation to that. There is no end to the human expectations. But there is always a limit to the amount of money that the state has. Just like in your family, there is no end to the expectations, but there is a limit to the amount of money that the family has. Then what do? You prioritize. That in this particular month we will focus on food, in the next month we will focus on the new clothes for the upcoming festival season, in the next month we will focus on, let's say, setting up another house. So you prioritize basis the needs that you have as well as the amount of money that you have. And that's exactly what budget does. That's exactly what financial administration does. Planning your finances in such a manner so that you focus on the priority areas, and over a period of time you start spending your money judiciously, wisely, so that it leads to happiness for the maximum number of people. And that is what financial administration is. And one tool of financial administration is budget. What is this budget? Article 112 of the Constitution talks about annual financial statement. There is no term budget mentioned in the Constitution. Budget as a term is not mentioned in the Constitution. But Constitution refers to budget by using this term known as annual financial statement. And what is this annual financial statement? On one hand, we have the expenditure. On the other hand, we have the revenue. How much are you spending in a particular year? How much money you have generated, raised in a particular year? One is revenue, the other is expenditure. Annual financial statement is nothing but these two sheets. One expenditure, the other revenue. Now, if expenditure is more than revenue, we call it a deficit budget. If revenue is more than expenditure, we call it surplus budget. And this is something that you will discuss in economy. It is better to have deficit budget, which means you are willing to spend more. But that spending should be on capital investment. That money should be spent on raising the infrastructure. It should not be spent on subsidies. It should not be spent on freebies or ravedes, as Prime Minister Modi calls them. But whatever it is, that is the domain of economics. I will not enter into the domain of economics. I will strictly restrict myself to the polity part of it, the constitutional provisions surrounding the budget. But whether this budget was good or bad, that's for Sham sir to discuss. Whether this budget could have been better or not, what are the expectations from the upcoming budget, that is something that is Sham sir's domain. I will not enter there. We will look at the constitutional provisions. For expenditure, we have something known as appropriation bill, and the revenue part, there is something known as finance bill. Both the appropriation bill and finance bill is nothing but money bill. Budget is one tool of financial administration. If you are a student of public administration, as an optional, you have to dissect this topic in great detail, but not from GS. Whatever I'm telling you right now, whatever we are discussing right now, just make note of it, understand it, and you are done. You don't have to worry about anything when it comes to the civil services examination, prelims and mains for polity. Constitution refers to budget as annual financial statement. And what is this annual financial statement? On one side, we have the expenditure. What is the amount of money that the government is going to spend in a particular year? And what is that year? Financial year starts from 1st of April till 31st March. How much money are you going to spend in this period? What is going to be your expenditure? That is mentioned in this bill known as appropriation bill. Why appropriation bill? Because where is this money going to come from? That's going to come from Consolidated Fund of India. So whatever the central government is planning to spend in a particular year, where is this money going to come from? Consolidated Fund of India. But you cannot withdraw even a single penny from Consolidated Fund of India without approval of the parliament. For that, you need a bill. What is that bill? Appropriation bill, which means you are appropriating money from Consolidated Fund of India. Such a bill on the expenditure side is known as appropriation bill. But then there is another side. If this is the amount of money that you are going to spend in a particular year, you also need revenue for that. You also need the money so that you can justify this expenditure. And where is this money going to come from? Through taxes. So maybe you will increase the taxes, maybe you will add more taxes. Taxes on all cigarettes and other commodities will increase. Every year it happens in the budget. That part, revenue part, which deals with the taxation matter, that is what we call finance bill. So what is a money bill? Any bill which talks about imposition of tax, alteration of tax, remission of tax, such a bill is a money bill. So this finance bill, which basically talks about the revenue side of the budget, that also is a money bill. First appropriation bill is passed, then finance bill is passed. Once appropriation bill and finance bill is passed, the budget is passed, union budget is over. But who prepares this union budget? Sir, Finance Ministry, 100%. But previously, a question was asked in the Civil Services Prelims examination. Which of the following departments is responsible for the preparation of the union budget? So in Ministry of Finance, there are various departments. Department of Expenditure, Department of Revenue. There is one department known as, anyone in the comment section? Manisha is right. Department of Economic Affairs. Within Department of Economic Affairs, there is a division known as Budget Division. So the Budget Division of the Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance is responsible for the preparation of budget. Previously, along with budget, a document used to be tabled on the floor of the parliament known as economic survey, which tells us about the health of Indian economy, which to me is the most important document that you must study and understand for your mains examination as well as for your prelims examination with respect to the economics. So my understanding is, if you don't read anything, just understand economic survey, you will be able to solve all the questions asked in mains as well as prelims when it comes to economy. But to understand economic survey, you need the basics as well. What is demand? What is supply? What is GDP? What is infrastructure? So on and so forth. But this economic survey is a very, very important document. You can quote economic survey for your mains answers, and I promise you, you will get good marks. Previously, economic survey also used to be tabled on the floor of the parliament along with budget. But now it is tabled sometimes a day before, sometimes 2 or 3 days before the budget. So 2 to 3 days before the budget, economic survey, which is drafted, created by the advisor to the finance ministry, and a very important document for your examination. Economic survey is tabled on the floor of the parliament, which gives a snapshot of various sectors of our Indian economy. What are the problems that plague our Indian economy? What is the solution? All that is mentioned in economic survey. 2 to 3 days before the budget, and then after 2 to 3 days, the union budget is tabled in the parliament. For that, we need to understand what exactly happens and how this budget is prepared. And please understand, we are talking about union budget. Every state government has its own budget as well. And what is this union budget basically? All the departments at the central level, all the central government departments, how much money they are going to spend in the next financial year, 1st of April till 31st of March. That is what budget is. And how we are going to raise this money so that we can justify and spend this money, that is the revenue part of the budget. But every state government has its own budget because all the departments at the state level, how much money are they going to spend in a particular year? For that, the state finance minister presents his own budget, her own budget in the state assembly. But we will be focusing on union budget. And whatever is true for union budget, with few exceptions, is true for the state budget as well. And I will tell you what are those exceptions. What exactly happens is that this Department of Economic Affairs, 5 to 6 months prior to the presentation of budget, there was a time prior to 2017 where we had two different budgets: union budget and railway budget. Sir, what does that mean? Budget is for all the departments at the central level, all the ministries at the central level. How much money are they going to spend in a particular year? That's what union budget is. Railway is also one department, but for railways, we used to have a separate budget which was presented by the railway minister. And for the rest of the departments, we would have a union budget known as the general budget. And this general budget used to be presented by the finance minister. But 2017 onwards, this budget has now been combined. Now we have one common budget known as the general budget, which includes how much money are you going to spend in railways as well. It happened because we needed to simplify this process. What is the need? Mr. Modi said to have a separate budget for railway. This is something which is part of the colonial legacy. Because since 1921, on the recommendations of the Atkinson's Commission, railway budget was separated from the union budget. Why? What was the need? That is irrelevant for the examination now. But in 2017, Mr. Modi said this is colonial legacy. We will do away with this colonial legacy. We will have one general budget where we will talk about all the departments, including the railways. That's number one. Number two, budget also is a colonial legacy. In fact, this term budget is derived from the French word budget, which means a leather bag. Now, how this word budget was given to this annual financial statement? In Britain, we have a finance minister, and the designation to that finance minister is the Chancellor of Exchequer. So we have finance minister in India. In Britain, they have Chancellor of Exchequer. For example, Rishi Sunak previously was the Chancellor of Exchequer. Now, when this British finance minister would present the budget before the parliament in Britain, he would carry or she would carry all these financial papers in a leather bag. Buje is a leather bag, from where English word budget got derived. So financial papers, this annual financial statement, the revenue part, the expenditure part, these were contained by the Chancellor of Exchequer in a leather bag. And now this leather bag came to be known as budget. That is why you might have noticed that when the finance ministers previously would present the budget, they would show this leather bag in front of the media. Photographs would be clicked, and then the next day, the front page would carry this finance minister carrying a leather bag. But now, Miss Nirmala Sitharaman, she said, why should we follow leather? Leather is also colonial legacy, or it also involves torture for animals because leather is derived from the animal products. Now she carries a jute bag. And this jute bag she presents before the media, and this jute bag contains the financial papers, the annual financial statement. So that is another colonial legacy which the current government has done away with. Previously, when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, Budget used to be presented at around 5:30 in the evening. Why? To coincide with the time the budget was presented in Britain, because we are 5.5 hours or close to that uh, ahead of Britain. And to coincide with the time when this budget would be presented by the British Chancellor of Exchequer, we would present the budget at the same time in India as well, which used to be in the evening. Mr. Vajpayee said, why this colonial legacy? We will done away with this. We will present the budget at 11 o'clock in the morning. Previously, the budget used to be presented on the last working day of February, whether it is 28th or 29th. Mr. Modi said, we will present it on the 1st February every year. And for that, there was a specific reason as well. And I will tell you that specific reason as we proceed. But there are still various state governments which present budget on the last working day of February. But at the central level, union budget is presented by the finance minister on the 1st of February every year. We have one common budget for all the departments of the central government, which means for all the departments, including the railways. But 5 to 6 months before 1st of February, this is how the process of budget starts. This is how the preparation for the union budget starts. This Department of Economic Affairs sends its forms to all ministries and departments at the central level. What is mentioned in this form? Basically, expectation. Expectations in the form. How much money do you need for the next financial year? How much money have you spent? How much money have you spent till now? Any standing schemes, new schemes? 5 to 6 months before the presentation of budget on the 1st of February, this Department of Economic Affairs under the Finance Ministry gives and sends circulars, forms to all the departments and ministries at the central level, asking questions. Questions in the form of, how much money do you want to spend in the next financial year? So, for example, we have Home Ministry. Home Ministry will be asked, how much money do you want to spend in the next financial year? So, Home Minister would send these forms to the Secretary of Home Affairs. Secretary of Home Affairs would also send this form to all the departments under the Home Ministry, because in Home Ministry we have various departments. And then these various departments would present their own expectation as well, that for this particular scheme, we would require this much amount of money. For fencing the borders, we would require this much amount of money. For upgrading the life jackets for the paramilitary troops, we would require this much amount of money. For all these various initiatives, this is the amount of money that we require. Defense Minister will be asked, what is your expectation? I need 36 Rafale jets. I need these helicopters. I need Apache helicopters. I need to provide more money to our armed forces. For one rank, one pension, this is the amount of money that we require. Long story short, you tell us what is your expectation. You also tell us how much money have you spent in the last year, so that we can see whatever you are expecting. Previously also you have given a number. Are you meeting those expectations or not? Are you spending that money or not? Or are you spending less than that or more than that? Plus, till now, what is the amount of money that you have spent? Because half of the year is over. The money that was given to you, let's say 1 rupee for the next financial year. Till now, when half of the year is over, have you spent 25 paisa or 75 paisa or 50 paisa, whatever it is, so that we can get the snapshot of how you spend the money? Are there going to be new schemes that you will launch? What is the amount of money that you want there? Or are there going to be standing schemes? That means those schemes which are continuing right now. Do you want to continue with these schemes? And how much money do you want to allocate to these schemes? For example, Women and Child Development Ministry will be asked how much money do you want to spend for your various schemes. Similarly, we will have various other ministries, various other schemes, Janani Suraksha Yojana, Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. So many schemes that we run at the central level. What is the amount of money that you are going to spend in the next financial year? How much money are you going to allocate to MG Narega? Are we going to increase the allocation or decrease the allocation? Give us that snapshot. And once all these departments, all these ministries at the central level, they fill these forms, and then these forms are sent back to Department of Economic Affairs. So that Department of Economic Affairs now will get a clarity on expenditure. That means once these forms are given to all the ministries and departments at the central level by the Department of Economic Affairs, and once these forms are collected back, now the Department of Economic Affairs will have the full clarity that this is the amount of money that we are going to spend in the next financial year. For example, this is what is happening in the companies as well. Every head of the department is asked, you give your AOP, annual operating plan, so that you can tell us what is the amount of money that you are going to spend in the next financial year. How much money are you going to spend on your salaries, on your incentives? How much money are you going to spend on, let's say, the marketing, the branding, the promotion, so on and so forth? You have to give the annual operating plan. Same annual operating plan is for the central government as well, where these forms are sent, collected, so that the Department of Economic Affairs now has a clarity at least on the expenditure part. This is the amount of money that we have to spend in the next financial year. But if this is the amount of money that we have to spend in the next financial year, where is the money going to come from? Where is this revenue going to come from? And this is where the Finance Ministry now gets in touch with Central Board of Direct Taxes, Central Board of Indirect Taxes, various other organizations, these tax collecting organizations, so that they can tell them and advise them, do we need to increase the taxes? Do we need to add more taxes? Do we need to impose more taxes? Do we need to impose a surcharge? Do we need to impose cess? So that whatever expenditure we have received from these departments, how can we match revenue with it? And after these, the finance bill gets prepared. Finance bill talks about the revenue part. And once we have these forms from the departments and ministries at the central level, the appropriation bill is prepared. Once the finance bill is prepared, appropriation bill is prepared, ultimately the matter goes to the Union Cabinet. After this lecture, you can Google some information. The Union Cabinet has cleared the Union budget, or when the Union budget will be presented next year. Before that, you should keep a track of this cabinet meeting, because once the finance minister gets an idea about the expenditure, there may be some dispute between the finance ministry and a particular ministry. Finance ministry does not want you to spend 20,000 crore on a particular scheme. But this ministry insists, no, we have to spend 20,000 crore. Ultimately, finance ministry cannot judge, because finance ministry is also another ministry. Home ministry is also another ministry. It's not that finance ministry is superior than home ministry. If Mr. Amit Shah Motabai insists, yes, I need 20,000 crore, what will Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman do? Ultimately, this matter will be presented to the cabinet. If there is a disagreement between finance ministry and home ministry, finance ministry and any other ministry, matter will be taken to the cabinet. And whatever cabinet decides, that they have to agree. And once the finance ministry prepares the appropriation bill as well as the finance bill, now this matter is taken before the cabinet. Now the prime minister will also take a look. All the ministers will also take a look, and ultimately, by consensus or by majority, this union budget is cleared by the cabinet. Once it is cleared by the cabinet, then this union budget is now ready to be presented on the floor of the parliament on the 1st of February. And constitution says it is the responsibility of the president. It shall be the duty of the president to lay before parliament an annual financial statement. So it is a necessity for the president to lay down this annual financial statement before the parliament. And the president of India lays down this annual financial statement through her minister, who is the finance minister. This is how the budget more or less is prepared. Although there are so many nitty-gritties involved, but you don't have to get into that. You don't have to become a financial expert or a tax expert. You are here as a civil services aspirant. Is that clear? Very nice. Now the union budget has been cleared by the union cabinet, and now it is to be presented on the floor of the parliament. When? On the 1st of February. Where? First in Lok Sabha. So why first in Lok Sabha? Because a money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha on the recommendations of the President of India. Money bill cannot be introduced in Rajya Sabha. It can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. And what is budget after all? It is a money bill. What is budget after all? It's a series of money bills. Appropriation bill, finance bill. First appropriation bill is passed, then finance bill is passed, the budget is done. And now, once this union cabinet clears this budget, the finance minister in a jute bag beams before the media. This bag contains the annual financial statement, the economic philosophy of the government for the next 1 year. What are the various welfare schemes that we want to implement for the next 1 year? And then Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman enters the Lok Sabha and lays down on the floor of the Lok Sabha this annual financial statement. And then she gives a speech, sometimes lasting 2.5 hours, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes drinking water, sometimes sitting, sometimes standing, whatever it is. And now she presents this budget. And if you notice closely what finance minister is saying, she does not say, I am allocating 20,000 crore for MG Narega. I am allocating 10,000 crore for midday meal scheme. No. I propose the investment of 20,000 rupees in MG Narega. I propose 10,000 crores for the upgradation of various schools under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. She's proposing it because she can't allocate. Who can allocate? Parliament. Because no money can be withdrawn from Consolidated Fund of India without the approval by the Parliament. So that is why the finance minister, throughout her speech, would only use this phrase, I propose an investment of this much. She can't say, I am allocating this much, because who are you? You're basically accountable to the Parliament. Parliament has to approve that money. And then she gives a speech where on and off there are people from the opposition who are thumping their chests. What is this? There are people from the government side who are praising what sort of a budget this is. After this budget is presented, there is a general discussion on this budget which lasts for 3 to 4 days. And in this general discussion, no voting takes place. No voting takes place because the budget has now been presented before the Lok Sabha. Now there will be a general discussion on this budget, and then this general discussion will also happen in Rajya Sabha. Because this annual financial statement, once it is presented to Lok Sabha, once it is tabled on the floor of the Lok Sabha, Finance Ministry completes her speech. Ultimately, this annual financial statement is tabled in Rajya Sabha as well. Because first it can be introduced only in Lok Sabha, then in Rajya Sabha. And after this budget is presented by the finance minister, then there is a general discussion on this budget which lasts for 3 to 4 days, sometimes 2 to 3 days as well. And this is where some members from the government will speak on this budget, say, wow, what a budget. Since independence, we have never seen such a budget. This budget caters to everybody, the poor, the marginalized, the Adivasis, the scheduled caste, everybody. This budget will make India self reliant. Rahul Gandhi and others would obviously criticize this budget. This budget is nothing. There is nothing for the poor. There is nothing for women. There is nothing for kids. There is nothing for that. There is nothing for this. This budget is only for Gujarat. This budget is only for the Adanis and Ambanis, the friends of Mr. Modi. So opposition would naturally criticize the budget, and the government side would obviously praise this budget, this brilliant budget that we have seen. After this general discussion is over, then both houses of the parliament are adjourned sine die. That means the presiding officer says the house is adjourned sine die without specifying the date and time when we are going to meet again. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean during this period, when the both houses of the parliament are adjourned sine die, parliamentarians don't work, there is no work involved because budget is still pending, budget has not been approved? This is where for the next 3 to 4 weeks, there will be scrutiny by the departmentally related standing committees. Scrutiny on demand for grants. What is this demand for grants? All these ministers, all these ministries and departments at the central level, when they submitted those forms, they said, we expect this is the amount of money that should be allocated to us that we are going to spend in the next financial year. But finance ministry cannot allocate that money because that money's custodian is the parliament. So this expenditure requirement is basically a demand. This is the demand that all these ministries and departments, they are asking from the finance minister, and finance minister will have to ask the parliament, can you please allocate this much money so that we can allocate it to various departments and ministries? And if the parliament approves it, then it becomes a grant. That means we have granted you that money. First, you're demanding it. Once your demand is met, that means your demand has been granted. So all these ministries and departments, they are basically asking for grants. That means give us this money. But these demands for grants would be scrutinized by departmental related standing committees. This practice started in 1993 after the reforms of 1991. Initially, there were 17. Now, since 2003, we have 24 departmentally related standing committees. No minister can be appointed to this committee. The term is for a year. All parties are represented. Non-partisan approach. What does that mean? Now listen to me carefully. All these departments and ministries at the central level, they are demanding this much amount of money. Clear? Now, if Parliament as a whole or Lok Sabha as a whole will have to vote on these demands, first they have to understand where is this money going to be spent. Just randomly, they can't give you the permission that you spend this amount of money, because then there is no parliamentary control over the executive. One way in which parliament exercises control over the executive is through budget. If this is the amount of money that you want, tell us, how have you spent the previous money? Why do you require this much amount of money? Why have you not spent the amount of money in the last 3 years? Why should this new particular scheme be launched? Why should money be allocated this much for this particular scheme? Basically, you're grilling the entire ministry on the expenditure part. But if Lok Sabha as a whole or Parliament as a whole will have to decide and look at all these ministries one by one, Parliament does not have time. That means maximum we can pick up 2 or 3 ministries, grill these ministries, and then time is up. We have to now pass the budget. Because otherwise this process will continue for a couple of months or at least 3 months. And we don't have time. We have to pass the budget. In 1993, 17 committees were set up. 2003, 7 more committees were set up. So total we have 24 departmentally related standing committees. Departmental related standing committees. That means now there will be a committee of the parliament, which will have members from both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Minister will not be appointed to this committee. Why? Because then there is a conflict of interest. And what this department will do, department will dissect, will grill all these civil servants as well who are part of that ministry. Tell us, where are you spending the money? How are you spending the money? Why are you spending this much? Why are you not spending the money? That's also problematic. And the expectation is that all these members of these committees, although they belong to various political parties, but inside the committee, they are non-partisan. That means the expectation is, even if you are a BJP MP, you will criticize a BJP minister. You will criticize the officials of that particular department. Why are you not spending this much money? Why have you not spent this money? Why are you spending this much money? So on and so forth. And ultimately, these departmentally related standing committees will give their report. That means after the general discussion is over, both houses of the parliament are adjourned. Then for the next 4 weeks, what happens? Scrutiny takes place of all these demands for grants by 24 departmentally related standing committee. That means for Home Ministry, there will be one department. For External Affairs Ministry, there will be another department. For various other ministries, there will be one department each. So that one departmentally related standing committee will dissect, criticize, get all the information and understanding from one ministry. And this is where the civil servants who are part of the ministries, they shiver when they appear before these standing committees, because they know that these members are non-partisan. They're not from BJP or Congress. They are parliamentarians, and they want to exercise control over the executive. But these reports in the sense, now these committees will decide, will present a report whether this much money should be given or not. And ultimately, voting takes place on these demands. But there are 2 things that you have to keep in mind. One, voting is the exclusive domain of Lok Sabha. Second, no voting on the charged expenditure. One is the expenditure part, the appropriation bill. That means we need to withdraw money from Consolidated Fund of India. One expenditure will be expenditure made on the Consolidated Fund of India. The other would be expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. That means no matter what happens, this money you have to withdraw. This is charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, something that we discussed yesterday. It's like the auto debit facility. Once these demands are discussed and debated in these 24 departmentally related standing committees, and they give the report, now this matter, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, is convened again. Because both the houses were adjourned sine die, Now the presiding officer is calling the session of both the houses of the parliament again. And now we are in Lok Sabha. And only Lok Sabha has the power to vote on these demands. That means all these demands which come from various ministries, which are part of the appropriation bill, whether these demands are to be accepted or not, that will be decided by Lok Sabha. But sir, you said money bill should be passed by both houses of the parliament. Yes, listen to me carefully, park your thoughts, don't stress. First, we are talking about voting on demands for grants. That means there are demands made by various ministries. Whether they should be granted or not, for that we need to vote. And once these demands are voted upon, that means all these demands are accepted by simple majority, then they become part of appropriation bill. Then this appropriation bill should be passed by Lok Sabha. And then this appropriation bill is passed by Rajya Sabha. And then budget is passed. The appropriation side is passed. Voting is the exclusive domain of Lok Sabha, and voting is only on the votable part of the budget, not on the charged expenditure, only on the expenditure made. And all these demands are taken ministry wise. So the speaker says, let's take up the finance ministry's demands. All these demands, should they be voted upon? There is a report of the departmentally related standing committee as well, whether this demand should be accepted or not, rejected or not. Those who say A, yes, say A. Those who say no, say no. I think the A's have it, this demand is granted. Once this demand is granted, it becomes part of the appropriation bill. And now this appropriation bill should be passed. But when this voting takes place, during this voting, there are various cut motions that can be issued. What are these cut motions? That means you have to cut something, cut some demand. What are these cut motions? Number one, policy cut. Let's say now we are taking up demands from the Women and Child Development Ministry, headed by Srimati Irani. Now she says, she demands that 10,000 crores be allocated to one scheme. Let's say the scheme is X. If Lok Sabha votes by simple majority, 10,000 crores will be given to Srimati Irani for that particular scheme. But suddenly, one member from the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, he gets up. You defeated me in Amethi, I will defeat you here. Dear Speaker, I have a policy cut motion. I said, yes. The definition of the policy cut, or the title of this policy cut, or the content of this policy cut is that the demand for this particular scheme be reduced to rupee 1. That means Srimati Irani was asking for 10,000 crores. Rahul Gandhi is saying, don't give her 10,000 crore rupees, give her 1 rupee. Now the speaker is saying, Mr. Gandhi, do you understand? No scheme can be run on 1 rupee. How can you say allocate only 1 rupee to Srimati Irani? She was asking for 10,000 crore. Rahul Gandhi says, I agree. No scheme can be run on rupee 1, which basically means I oppose the very policy of the government. I oppose this policy. I think that such a scheme should not exist. This policy of the government should not exist. That is why don't allocate 10,000 crore. Allocate only 1 rupees. If this policy cut motion is passed by simple majority, that means if more than half of the members present and voting in Lok Sabha pass this policy cut, the government is censured. Extreme disapproval. That's what we call censor. I'm censoring you for using this language. That means I am expressing extreme disapproval about the language that you're using. In the similar fashion, if this policy cut motion is passed by simple majority in Lok Sabha, the Council of Ministers is censured. Which means forget about budget. Now you can't take any policy decision. First, get the confidence motion passed in Lok Sabha. Because we assume that if you have been censured because Lok Sabha is against the very policy of this government, if you have been censured, we think you have lost the confidence as well. Right now, you don't need to resign, but you can't take any policy decision either. You have to get the confidence motion passed in Lok Sabha. And what is this confidence motion? Now, Prime Minister will introduce a motion. Forget about budget. Let's leave it aside for now, because now our life and death is at stake. Prime Minister will introduce a confidence motion in Lok Sabha. Will say, I have the confidence of Lok Sabha. And then the Lok Sabha members will vote. If this confidence motion is passed by simple majority, government survives, Prime Minister survives. Because previously you were censured, now you have the confidence, you can continue. But if this censure motion, if this confidence motion is defeated by simple majority, Prime Minister has no other option but to resign. So if this policy cut motion is passed, whose definition is that the demand be reduced to 1 rupee. Since no scheme can run on 1 rupee, it basically means the Lok Sabha is saying that we are against the very policy of the government. Policy cut motion. Second, it can be economy cut. The demand be reduced by X amount. Mr. Rahul Gandhi may get up and say, Shrimati Irani is asking for 10,000 crore, but I want Lok Sabha to approve minus X. That means if she's asking for 10,000 crores minus X, X can be 100 crore, 200 crore, 300 crore. That means we are not against the very policy of the government, but we are against the amount of money that you are spending. So we want this demand to be reduced by X amount. Since this is not the opposition to the policy, you basically want more economy. That's what we say. What is the economy of a car? This car is economical because it gives you more kilometers than the per liter of petrol or diesel that you fill. Economical. This bowler bowled economically. That means he gave away four runs per every over. The economy rate is 4 or 5, which in the era of T20 is spectacular. So basically, the members of the parliament, Lok Sabha, they want economical schemes with less amount of money, but creating more impact. But you're not against the very policy of the government. You basically want the demand be reduced by X amount. X can be anything. If not economy cut, token cut. The demand be reduced by rupees 100. Shrimati Irani is asking for 10,000 crore. Dear Speaker, I have a token cut. Token 10,000 crore minus 100 rupees. Give remaining to Shrimati Irani. But minus 100 rupees? That means from an ocean we are taking out one drop. What impact does it have? So all these cut motions are basically without utility. Without utility, no use per se. Why? Because the government has the majority. If the government does not have the majority, the government will resign. If the government has majority, then whether it is policy cut or economy cut or token cut or any cut, square cut, whatever it is, all these cut motions will be cut by the government because the government has the majority. So basically, these cut motions have no utility, but it may have a utility in a coalition government. In a coalition government where one party does not have the full majority, it is dependent on support from others, there may be a time where more economy cut motions will be passed. For this particular scheme, reduce it by 200 crores. That might happen. But it does not happen when the government has the majority, because when the government has the simple majority and all these cut motions require simple majority, you can't get these cut motions passed. But even if they are not of any utility, we have to discuss because that is something that is part of the rules of business and procedure. Which means once the budget is presented by the finance minister on the 1st of February at 11 o'clock in the morning, the finance minister gives a speech. After that speech, this budget, this annual financial statement is tabled in Rajya Sabha as well. Then, for 3 to 4 days, there is a general discussion on this budget. After general discussion is over, the both houses of the parliament are adjourned. And during this period, 24 departmentally related standing committees, they dissect all these demands and now submit a report. Now Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is convened again. Now we are in Lok Sabha, and in Lok Sabha there will be voting. Because all these demands made by various ministries, they are to be voted upon. Once they are voted upon, they become grant. Once they become grant, they are part of the appropriation bill. Clear? But voting is the exclusive domain of Lok Sabha. And voting is only on the votable part of the budget, which means expenditure made on the Consolidated Fund of India, not on the expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. Clear? And then one by one, we take all these demands by various ministries. And this is where various cut motions can be introduced, like policy cut, like economy cut, like token cut, which are of no utility whatsoever because the government enjoys majority. If the government does not enjoy majority, they won't present budget. They will resign before presentation of the budget because they know they would be embarrassed in Lok Sabha. But this appropriation bill should be passed and assented within 18 days. That means now that the House has been convened again after the general discussion, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you have 18 days to pass this appropriation bill. Because all these demands which have now been voted upon by the Lok Sabha, they become part of the appropriation bill. Now this appropriation bill together needs to be passed by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and signed by the President of India within 18 days. But sometimes what we have seen, ruckus in house, pandemonium in house, disruption in house. So the speaker is saying, let's take the demand of the Home Ministry. There is shouting going on, hooliganism going on, chairs are thrown at each other, microphone is thrown at each other. And this is happening right now. And this used to happen in the past as well. When Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, when Mr. Chidambaram was the Finance Minister, both of them would beg the opposition, please let Parliament function. Please don't obstruct Parliament. You may have disagreements with us, let's discuss. But let's allow Parliament to function. We can debate like civil people. Mr. Arun Jaitley said something interesting. He said, obstructing the Parliament is my democratic right. So parliamentary obstructionism, where you are obstructing the Parliament, not allowing the Parliament to function, is also my right, because that is how I can convey to the people that this government is wrong. When Mr. Jaitley became the Finance Minister, Congress started opposing and blocking the Parliament. Now Mr. Jaitley is begging, please let Parliament function. Mr. Chidambaram said, I will repeat your words. Parliamentary obstructionism is my right. That's how I can tell and convey my people that the government is wrong. You sow what you reap, or you reap what you sow, whatever it is. And in this atmosphere, when the budget is not being passed, the appropriation bill is not being passed, something disastrous can happen. There is no money available with the government to spend, which means government can't run. And if the money bill is not passed, the government has to resign. If the appropriation bill is not passed, the government has to resign. Sushma Swaraj was the leader of the opposition. Ministers went to her, said, please cooperate. Said, I will cooperate, but only for the passage of budget. Once the budget is passed, we will go back and obstruct the Parliament. We will go back and disrupt the Parliament, because parliamentary obstructionism is my right. So at least till now we have the sense, at least, that for the budget, at least there should be some collaboration, so that we will pass this budget and then let the things be disrupted again. Because we have got only 18 days for this appropriation bill to pass. Why 18 days? I'll tell you later. And this is where the speaker employs a closure motion, something which is known as guillotine. What is this guillotine? For example, we say the speaker takes up all these demands ministry wise, one ministry, then another ministry. But for all these days, Parliament was being obstructed. Parliament was not functioning. Lok Sabha was not functioning. Now we come to the last day. So today, all these demands should be voted upon. Then appropriation bill should also be passed. Then we have to quickly send this bill to Rajya Sabha, get this passed, and then send to President and get it signed by the President. We can't take all these demands ministry by ministry. So let's close all these demands together. And in one go, we will vote upon it. So instead of individually voting upon different ministries' demands, what the speaker does, I will employ a closure motion. This is known as guillotine. Instead of taking all these demands ministry by ministry, one by one, I am combining all these demands together. And in one go, I am asking you to vote. Those who are in favor may say A. Those who are against may say no. I think the A's have it. The A's have it. This is passed. This demand is granted. And once this appropriation bill, which is basically a money bill, which talks about withdrawal of money from Consolidated Fund of India, once it is passed by both houses of the parliament by simple majority, signed by the president, then it authorizes the withdrawal of money from the Consolidated Fund of India. That means the appropriation bill is passed, the expenditure side of the government is done. Now we will come to the finance side, the revenue side of this. And we say we have 75 days for this finance bill to pass. When the budget is presented to the parliament on the 1st of February, from that date till 75 days, these are the days that we are giving you to pass this bill. And once finance bill is passed, it authorizes the collection of taxes. Sir, what does that mean? You might have followed this. I'm not sure whether you have, or maybe you have an idea that whenever a tax is imposed in the union budget, this tax normally enters into force from 1st of June. Not immediately once the budget is passed, later, 1st of June onwards. Why? Because finance bill takes 75 days to pass, or within 75 days it should be passed. It can be passed before as well, but it is passed after the appropriation bill is passed, which is slightly later. Which means then when this finance bill is passed, then this finance bill, which talks about the revenue part of the budget, which talks about various taxes, then these taxes are collected, then these taxes are enforced. Once appropriation bill is passed, then finance bill is passed, budget is passed, done. But now, there are two important concepts. One is vote on account, and the other is interim budget. Vote on account only deals with expenditure. Interim budget deals with expenditure as well as revenue. What is this vote on account? Two things. Why did we shift to 1st of February instead of last day of February? The reason is vote on account. One reason is vote on account. And what is that reason? There is something known as rule of lapse. What is rule of lapse? For example, you are an employee in a corporate sector. Every month, one casual leave is given to you, which means over a period of 12 months, you have 12 casual leaves. Clear? Then you have some earned leaves as well. Earned leaves, they carry forward to the next year. But casual leaves, if you do not use them, what will happen to these casual leaves? They will lapse. That means from next year, these 12 casual leaves will not be added because these leaves have lapsed. Similarly, what is the financial year? 1st April till 31st March. That means this union budget allocates money to various departments and ministries for 1 year. That means this amount of money that we have given you, you have to spend this amount of money between 1st of April till 31st March. But if you are allocated 1000 crore, but you have spent only 700 crore, what will happen to the remaining 300 crore? It will lapse. It will go back to Consolidated Fund of India because you have not spent that money. Now, there can be a question on your mind, sir, why is this money given only for 1 year? Previously, we used to have 5-year plans. Why can't we give money for 3 years or 2 years or 5 years? The logic is Parliament, which is the legislature, should not trust the executive for more than a year. We have to give you money only for 1 year, and then we will ask you questions so that we can exercise control over you. That is what democracy is. That's what parliamentary democracy is. Council of Ministers are responsible to Lok Sabha, accountable to Lok Sabha, accountable to the people, because we have been elected by the people of India. So we will entrust you only with money for a year. After that, come back to us, ask for money again. Because we have to see how you have spent the money. That's how we can exercise the control. So there is something known as rule of lapse. Clear? Now imagine a situation which used to exist before, that on the last working day of February, this union budget is presented. Clear? Then there is a general discussion for 3 to 4 days. Let's say we reach 4th of March. And this is when the 4th of March, the both houses of the parliament would be adjourned. And then there will be a scrutiny by departmentally related standing committees for 4 weeks, which means we are already in 4th of April. Sometimes the departmentally related standing committees will take more time. That means we are towards the end of the April. And then once the house is convened again, we have 18 days for this appropriation bill to pass. That means we are already in May as well, towards the end of the May. That means for April and May, do we have any money to spend? No. Why? Because number one, according to rule of lapse, all these ministries, whatever money was allocated to them, they have to spend them till the 31st of March. After that, they are left with no money because the money will go back to Consolidated Fund of India. But what will they spend in April and May, in 2 months of the financial year? Nothing, because appropriation bill has not been passed. And constitution is clear. You can't withdraw a single penny from Consolidated Fund of India without passing the appropriation bill. And appropriation bill is still pending. So what will you spend? Nothing. This is where vote on account would come into the picture. What is this vote on account? After general discussion, approval is given. 1/6 of the demand for 2 months. Union budget is presented. The finance minister gives a speech. Then there is a general discussion for 3 to 4 days. Once the general discussion is over, what Lok Sabha does, it approves vote on account. What is this vote on account? Money is given to the government. You spend this money for 2 months, April and May. How much money? 1/6 of whatever you are demanding. Then we will see whether this money should have been given or not. But at least if you are demanding 100, at least we can give you 1/6 of that you can spend for the next 2 months. So after every general discussion, vote on account would be passed, which would give money to the central government to be spent in these 2 months because the budget is still pending. That's what we call vote on account. So this vote on account was part of every budget. But now there is no need. That is why we shifted to 1st of February. So 1st of February, union budget is presented. General discussion for 3 to 4 days. We are on 4th of February. Then there will be adjournment, departmentally related standing committees. They will review and scrutinize all these demands for the next 4 weeks, which means now we are in 4th of March. And now from 4th of March till 18 days, we have to get this appropriation bill passed by both the houses, signed by the president. That means by the end of March, definitely this appropriation bill is passed. And once this appropriation bill is passed, then what happens? You are allowed, authorized to withdraw money from Consolidated Fund of India. That means right from 1st of April, when the financial year starts, you will have the money to spend because appropriation bill is passed even before 1st of April. Now there is no demand, there is no need for vote on account. But vote on account still has one utility. What is the utility? The outgoing government in an election year presents only vote on account. Next year, 2024, in February, if Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman continues as the finance minister, she will not present the budget. She will present the vote on account. What is this vote on account? It only deals with the expenditure. Why? Because this is an outgoing government. That too in an election year, because in 2024, in May, there would be elections. And then the new government will come to power. Whether it's going to be the BJP government or the Congress government or Aam Aadmi Party government or my government, nobody knows. Clear? Although Mr. Modi knows, but you always have to assume that something else would happen. Which means, why should this BJP government present the budget for the entire year? That means till 31st March 2025. Does that mean in May, if we have a new government in place, that new government will have to follow the economic policies of the previous government? Why should they do it? That is why this outgoing government, in an election year, instead of presenting a full-fledged budget, they only present a vote on account. That means they basically ask the parliament, you give us the money that we can spend for the next few months. After that, once the next government comes, they will have to present their own budget. That means the outgoing government in an election year will not raise taxes, impose taxes. They will have to do nothing on the taxation part, on the revenue part. They can only pass the vote on account. And once this vote on account is passed, you have money to spend for the next couple of months. Elections are also over. Now we have a new government in power. Now we may have a new finance minister. And then this new government will not pass a full-fledged budget. This new government will pass an interim budget. What is this interim budget? The chairperson of Board of Control for Cricket in India has resigned. For example, we have to elect a new president. In the interim period, till we appoint a new president, we will have Mr. X, Mr. Jay Shah as the president of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. That means you are only for a time period, for the interim period, till we have the president. The union budget is for the entire year, 1st of April till 31st March. Now, if from 1st of April till 30th of May, we have vote on account, for the remaining part of the year, Voter account may not necessarily be for 2 months. The government may ask that give us this money for the next 4 months, because that is when the new government would come to power. So for the next 4 months, you can only spend money. No new money can be raised, or finance side you cannot touch because you are the outgoing government. So April, May, June for that matter, you have the money for this period. And in June, the new government will have to present its budget. How can they present the full-fledged budget? They can present only for the interim period. That means from July till 31st March. Any budget which is not for the full financial year of 1st April till 31st March, but only for some months or 9 months or 10 months for the remaining period, that is what we call the interim budget. But when this new government will present the interim budget, it will not only focus on the expenditure side, it will also focus on the revenue side. That means it can impose new taxes, it can raise new taxes. That is something that this new government can do. That is the interim budget. But I am Home Minister. I asked for 10,000 crores. I got 10,000 crores. But in January itself, I am out of money. I run out of money. What will I spend from January till March 31st? I have no money to spend. I will ask Parliament again for supplementary grants. That means please supplement the previously allocated money. I was given 10,000 crores, but I spent this money even before completing the year. Now there are few months left still. What am I going to spend? I will again ask the Parliament, please allow me more money, give me more money. That is something known as supplementary grant. That means I'm asking for more money, I'm demanding for more money. Once this money is voted upon by Parliament, it becomes a grant. But it is to supplement what we previously gave you. That is what we call supplementary grant. It is also a money bill, just like a budget. Or additional grant. Suddenly, in the middle of the year, we are launching a new scheme. When we are launching a new scheme, ultimately for this scheme, we need a money. But this is in addition to all the schemes that you previously were running. For that, we are allocating money. That is called additional grant. That means a new scheme you are launching, which is in addition to the previous schemes that you were running or your ministry was running. But since this is an addition, a new one, this is, once this money is allocated to you, it becomes an additional grant. It is also a money bill. Third, excess grant. What is this excess grant? I am a minister. I have to start a new scheme. The finance ministry is telling me, give me a tentative idea. What is the amount of money that you need? I said, I can't give you an idea because this is a new scheme which we are running. We want to run, but I can't give you a tentative idea of the amount of money that I can spend. I said, at least give me a rough idea. Even if you are falling short of the money, you can always come back to us and ask for supplementary grants. That no, I'm sorry, I can't give you even that tentative number because I don't know. This is for the first time that I'm implementing such a scheme. Then what do we do? We give you something known as vote of credit. What is this vote of credit? It's like a blank check given to executive. Spend as much money as you want to spend, but keep note of all your spendings, keep track of all your spendings, and then submit them to Public Accounts Committee. Which is considered to be one of the most important committees of the Parliament. 21 members are part of this committee. 15 are from Lok Sabha, the rest are from Rajya Sabha. No minister is appointed to this Public Accounts Committee. And the job of this Public Accounts Committee is to examine the audit reports of the CAG. So once the CAG conducts an audit, CAG conducts audit of government ministries, of this appropriation bill, finance bill as well. Basically, if this is the amount of money that you were spending, whether you have spent for the same reason or not, whether you are extravagant in your spending or have you spent judiciously, CAG, the most important office under the constitution, will conduct the review, will conduct the audit. And whatever report is presented by the CAG will now be examined by the parliamentarians, will now be examined by this very important committee known as Public Accounts Committee. Public account, public money. A committee of the parliament will decide whether the government is spending the money rightly or not. And if this vote of credit is given, that means the government wanted a scheme or wanted to spend money somewhere where they can't even quantify what is the amount of money that they need. Vote of credit is given to them. It's like a blank check given to the government. You spend the amount of money that you want to spend. But then with all these details, submit these details to Public Accounts Committee so that now a committee of the parliament will decide whether you have spent this money rightly or wrongly. And then basis the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Parliament will pass this vote of credit, will pass this bill to basically justify your spend. You have spent that money on already, but whether you have spent it correctly or not, that Public Accounts Committee will decide. Vote of credit. But sometimes it is an excess grant. Excess grant in the sense you are staying in a hostel in a different city, studying engineering, for example. Your family gives you 10,000 rupees per month, that is your budget. But now you overshot your spending. You had to give some gift to your friends on birthday. Suddenly there is expenditure, more expenditure. So what do? You basically borrow money from your friends. Please give me 4,000 rupees more. I will repay you next month. How will you repay next month? Next month also you will get 10,000 rupees. So does that mean you will fulfill all your needs with only 6,000 rupees? No. I have spent more this month. That means I've spent 4,000 more. I will ask my parents that I have spent 4,000 more on these reasons. Please give me this money. That means I have spent in excess to what was allocated to me. Now give me this money so that I can repay others. That is excess grant. If money was given to you 1,000 crores, but you spent 1,400 crores, that means you spent more than what was allocated to you. What will happen to these 400 crores? The government will present this to Public Accounts Committee. Dear Public Accounts Committee, this is 400 crores extra that we have spent. Please see if you have spent it rightly or not. Okay, you have spent it for these reasons. Done. Very good. Okay, so we are approving your request. And now this excess money which you had spent will be granted to you by the parliament. That becomes an excess grant. Sometimes it is an exceptional grant. That means for a service, for a scheme which was not part of any financial year. Just like additional grant, that means a new scheme which came in the middle of the year, but under exceptional circumstances this is given. This is known as exceptional grant. So even after the budget is over, you may still want money, but don't worry, supplementary grant, excess grant, additional grant, vote of credit, exceptional grants. That is how the budget is passed. Right? Even this appropriation bill has to be passed by Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha by simple majority. The only thing is that if Rajya Sabha decides not to pass it, it can only delay it for 14 days. After the expiry of 14 days, this appropriation bill will be passed because it's a money bill after all. Somebody asked. The 543 members. Election would happen in May, for example. Clear? And once the elections are over, the results are also declared. Majority of these 543 MPs, they have lost the election. Majority of them. Which means they contested the election again, but majority of them, they lost. Now, after the election, it's going to be the last day of this Lok Sabha. That means from tomorrow or from 5 days later, the new Lok Sabha MPs will be sworn in, will be administered oath, and now they will be part of this Lok Sabha. Clear? But this is the last day of this last parliament, last Lok Sabha, and majority of them have lost. That means they won't come back to Lok Sabha. This is what we call lame duck parliament. That means these individuals have lost the election. Now they will not come back. Yes, this Public Accounts Committee is an important committee of the parliament where both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha MPs are part of it. 15 members from Lok Sabha are part of it. 7 members from Rajya Sabha are part of it. So in total, we will have 22 members in Lok Sabha, in Public Accounts Committee. That someone from opposition heads the Public Accounts Committee. So Public Accounts Committee is headed by a member of the parliament who belongs to the opposition. Yes, the chairperson is from the opposition. Now, how does Parliament exercise control over the executive? Through questions, through discussions, through motions, through resolutions. Now, listen to me carefully. Please go through Lakshmikant chapter of Indian Parliament, and there are lots and lots of facts, lots and lots of stuff which no explanation is required, but you just have to memorize these things. Please go through that Parliament chapter again, Union Legislature chapter, Indian Parliament again, and underline the important points. Because I don't want to repeat those points here, because number one, I don't have to explain anything, it's just factual information. Number two, even if I tell you those facts, you won't be able to recall, you won't be able to remember unless and until you revise it multiple times. So those facts, those factual details, please read on your own. After that, if you have any doubt, please come back to me, send me a mail, whatever it is, I will definitely reply. Okay? For example, how do you read these facts? Although question hour is also factual, I should not have explained, but I will explain so that you understand how to read it, how to understand this. One way in which Parliament is exercising control over the executive is through questions. When questions are asked by parliamentarians to the ministers. There is a session of Indian Parliament. We have discussed that there can be 3 sessions of the Parliament normally. There can be any number of sessions, but Parliament must meet as much as possible and in such a manner that the time between the first and the second session should not be more than 6 months. If there is going to be a session of the Parliament, now let's say this session is from 1st of April till 10th of April. On the 1st of April, every day, the first hour is reserved for questions. The first hour of every parliamentary session is reserved for questions, and that is what we call question hour. And during this question hour, 3 types of questions are asked. Start, unstart, short duration questions. Start question, that means the question that you are asking is marked by the asterisk, which means you need an oral answer to this question. Unstart question, that means the question that you're asking is not differentiated by an asterisk mark, which means you need a written answer. For example, the controversy on Mawa Moitra. You have to log in through your credentials and post your questions. When you are posting your questions, you also have the power to decide whether this is going to be a starred question. That means I need an oral answer from the minister, or is it going to be an unstarred question? That means I need a written answer from the minister. That is your discretion. That is something that you want. But listen to me carefully. If you want answers from a minister, you also have to give them time. Because it's not like you have suddenly asked a question and they will come up with an answer at the spur of the moment. They also need to go back to their ministers. They need to go back to their secretaries. They need this information, whatever information you're asking for. And ultimately, they will have to present before you the correct answer. Because what is the role of the parliament? It is the source of authentic information. Isn't that something that we discussed when we discussed parliament first? So you need to give them time. And normally it is 30 days. That means the session of parliament starts from this date till that date. You have 1 month. Post your questions. How many questions you want to post, whether starred, unstarred, whatever it is. That's number one. Number two, although when you are asking a question, and you have said that this is a starred question, that means I need an oral answer from the minister. But who are you submitting your questions to? Speaker, the presiding officer. When the speaker looks at this question, the speaker has a discretion. To convert your starred question into an unstarred question. Speaker has a discretion. Speaker, when he looks at your question, if the speaker is satisfied that this question's answer can be best satisfied if it is provided in written format, the speaker can convert your starred question into an unstarred question. These are the facts that are important for your exam. So the first day or the first hour of any day of the parliamentary session is reserved for questions. What are these questions? The interesting thing is, can you ask these questions only to ministers? Or can you ask these questions to private members as well? Now, you might be wondering, why should a private member be asked any question? We don't have to seek personal details about this individual. So normally this question should be asked to a minister, to a government minister. But you can ask a question to a private member as well. What sort of question? For example, I'm a private member of the parliament, private member of Lok Sabha, for example. That means I am a member of Lok Sabha, but I'm not a minister, which means I'm a private member. As a private member, I am introducing a bill, a private member's bill. If any member of the parliament has got any questions with respect to this, you can ask me question as well, and I will respond. That means during this question hour, you can ask questions to a private member as well. You can ask a question to a government minister as well. But mostly we ask questions to government ministers. And there are 3 types of questions: starred, unstarred, short duration. Starred question, that means the question is differentiated by an asterisk mark, which means I need an oral answer from the minister. And if it is an oral answer, that means supplementary questions can also be followed. Questions such as, for example, you are in the interview panel. There is an interview panel taking your interview. Why do you want to become the civil servant? Sir, I want to become civil servant because I want to serve the society. Now they will catch hold of you. You can serve the society by joining army as well. Yes, sir, but I don't want to live away from my family. That means family is your weakness. That means supplementary questions will follow. If I am asking Mr. Amit Shah, how many people have been arrested under love jihad, for example, the minister will reply orally, there have been no cases of love jihad in India. We do not track such data. I will now ask, if you don't track that data, why are you saying that the incidence of love jihad has increased? Supplementary questions. And how many supplementary questions? 5 supplementary questions can be asked. Or I can ask this question, but it is an unstarred question. That means it is not differentiated by an asterisk mark, which means I need a written answer. And when it's a written answer, no supplementary questions can be asked. And if you have witnessed these parliamentary proceedings, question 26, Derek O'Brien, the minister will get up, the minister will say, dear speaker, dear chairperson, honorable chairperson, the answer to this question is lying at your desk. That means we have given the written answer to whatever question you have demanded. But sometimes the speaker may allow a short duration question as well, because normally for starred and unstarred question, what is the amount of time that you have to give? 30 days. And in short duration question, there are 10 days. That means in less than 10 days, you can ask questions to a minister. You can ask questions to a private member. That is what we call a short duration question. And once the question hour is over, then comes the agenda of the House. Where is this mentioned? Rules of business and procedure of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Which means first hour of a day of a parliamentary session is reserved for questions, and that hour is known as question hour. Where is this mentioned? Rules of business and procedure. After question hour is over, now we come to the agenda. What is the agenda? Maybe we have to pass 2 or 3 bills. Maybe we have to discuss matters related to Israel and Hamas conflict. That means whatever is now decided by the Business Advisory Committee. Because basically the agenda of this session is decided by Business Advisory Committee, headed by the Speaker, headed by the Chairperson of Rajya Sabha. So what is going to be the agenda in Rajya Sabha, what is going to be the agenda in Lok Sabha, that is decided by their respective committees. And now today's agenda is that we will discuss, let's say, Office of Profit Bill. We need to amend it. We need to amend Prevention of Corruption Act. We need to amend, let's say, laws related to marriage, whatever it is. And then we will discuss what is happening between Israel and Hamas in Palestine, in Gaza, West Banks, Gaza Strip, so on and so forth. That's the agenda. But sometimes, after question hour and before the agenda of the House, one more hour is squeezed. That is known as 0 hour, where questions can be asked without notice. Not mentioned in the rules. Indian innovation. In practice since 1962. Sir, questions can be asked every day or only first day of the session. Every day of the session is reserved for questions, known as question hour. And after that, agenda of the House starts. But sometimes between question hour and the agenda, one more hour is squeezed. That's called 0 hour, where questions can be asked without notice. And this is something which is not mentioned in the rules. That is why it is called 0 hour. 1962, there was a war between India and China. Pandit Nehru was heavily criticized. The members demanded that we should seek more questions, more answers from the government. Question hour was over, but during question hour, you have to give them notice of 10 days, 30 days. The members felt that there is a need to ask questions without any notice as well, because every day something is happening between India and China. And in 1962, innovation happened, 0 hour was squeezed in. That means between question hour and agenda, another hour was squeezed in, known as 0 hour. But since this was not mentioned in the rules, not mentioned anywhere, we call it Indian innovation, 0 hour, where questions can be asked without prior notice. That is 0 hour. And once question hour is over, 0 hour is over, then the agenda starts. Clear? Then we have something known as motion and resolution. Yesterday, somebody was asking, sir, what is the difference between motion and resolution? Let's discuss the difference between motion and resolution today. At 8, now let's look at what is the difference between a motion and a resolution. We say motion is the opinion of the House, and resolution is the resolve of the House. What is the difference? All motions are not required to be voted upon, while as all resolutions, they're all voted upon. But to make it even more clear, we will first understand what is a motion and then what is a resolution. Anything that a member of the parliament has to do, first you have to take the permission of the presiding officer. That is what we call take leave from the presiding officer. For example, in your school, in the class, there are 40 students. Ma'am or sir, can I go to the restroom? You have to take the leave from the presiding officer, from the chair, without which nothing can happen inside the class. And nothing can happen inside the parliament without the approval of the presiding officer. So you have to take the leave from the presiding officer. One such motion is a substantive motion. And what is a substantive motion? A substantive motion is something which stands on its own legs. Most important matter. And what is that most important matter? Let's take the example of impeachment motion. How is the president of India removed from his office? And the process is known as impeachment. That means first the members of the parliament, they have to move a motion which is a very important matter, which stands on its own legs. And what is that which stands on its own legs? I'll tell you slightly later. But a most important matter, which means if 1/4 of the members of Rajya Sabha approach the presiding officer with this impeachment motion that we want to remove the president of India, this motion becomes substantive motion. It stands on its own legs. It's a most important matter. Once it is voted upon, then it travels to the other house. The other house investigates all these charges against the president. The charges are that you have violated the constitution. And once that impeachment motion is passed by both houses of the parliament, president is removed from his office, impeached from his office. That is a substantive motion. And what is that substantive motion? One more example, no confidence motion. Constitution says that the council of ministers, including the prime minister, they're responsible to Lok Sabha. And this is what we call parliamentary democracy. or cabinet form of government. Now, how do we prove whether the government has the majority or not? That is known as floor test. That means on the floor of legislature, on the floor of Lok Sabha, on the floor of the Legislative Assembly, opposition would introduce this motion in Lok Sabha. That means opposition, just like recently what happened, the Bharatiya Rashtriya Samiti, which was previously TRS, and the Congress and others, they moved a no confidence motion against the Council of Ministers, against the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. And this no confidence motion should be supported by 50 MPs. Without the support of the 50 MPs, this motion will not be accepted by the presiding officer. For example, there are many political parties in the opposition. We have a political party, AIMIM, All India Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimin, headed by Asaduddin Owaisi. This party has 2 MPs in Lok Sabha. What if only these 2 MPs approach the speaker that we want to introduce a no confidence motion against the Prime Minister? It won't be accepted because it needs support of at least 50 MPs. If 50 MPs in written approach the presiding officer moving this motion, a substantive motion, an important motion known as the no confidence motion, then if the speaker accepts, ultimately there will be a discussion on this no confidence motion. No need to explain the reason. When these 50 MPs of Lok Sabha approach the presiding officer with this no confidence motion, they don't have to state any reason. Because it is clear with the title of this motion itself, no confidence. We don't have the confidence in the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. If this no confidence motion is passed by simple majority, Prime Minister shall resign. And we know the collective responsibility is that Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister, they swim and sink together. The resignation of the Prime Minister means the resignation of the entire Council of Ministers. This is a substantive motion. And if this no confidence motion is defeated, the government survives. And for the next 6 months, this no confidence motion cannot be introduced again. Which means recently, when this no confidence motion was introduced by the Congress against the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers, it was accepted by the Speaker. Then discussion took place. For a few days, the discussion continued. And then at the end of the discussion, there was voting. When there was voting, ultimately, this no confidence motion could not obtain simple majority because the government has the majority. The Prime Minister survives. And now for the next 6 months, you cannot introduce this no confidence motion again. After the lapse of 6 months, then the opposition can introduce this no confidence motion again. Something similar is a confidence motion. And this no confidence motion is mentioned in the rules of business and procedure of Lok Sabha. Can this no confidence motion be introduced in Rajya Sabha? No. Why? Because the Council of Ministers are not responsible to Rajya Sabha. They are responsible, accountable only in Lok Sabha. So only in Lok Sabha, this no confidence motion can be introduced. But no confidence motion is when the opposition wants Prime Minister to prove that you have the majority on the floor of the legislature, on the floor of the Lok Sabha, you have the simple majority. But what if Prime Minister himself introduces a motion stating that I want to prove I have the majority? Such a motion is called as confidence motion. No confidence motion moved by the opposition. Confidence motion moved by the Prime Minister himself to prove that I have the majority. And this normally happens whenever elections are held. If in this election there are various political parties which have contested and bagged seats, but no political party has got the majority. Now we have a political party and various other political parties coming together to form the government. The governor is asking the chief minister that you prove that you have the confidence on the floor of the legislative assembly. Or the president is asking the prime minister, you prove that you have the majority on the floor of the Lok Sabha. For example, Mr. Devilal was asked to prove his majority on the floor of the Lok Sabha. Mr. Chandrasekhar was asked to prove his majority on the floor of the Lok Sabha. Dr. Manmohan Singh introduced a confidence motion in 2008, himself saying, I have the confidence in Lok Sabha. He did not wait for opposition to introduce this no confidence motion. And if this no confidence motion is passed by a simple majority, Prime Minister survives. If no confidence motion is passed, government has to resign. If confidence motion is passed, that means the House has resolved that yes, we have the confidence in the Prime Minister survives. That's the difference between confidence motion and a no confidence motion. There is another motion known as censure motion. What is the censure motion? Can be introduced against an individual minister or against the entire Council of Ministers. Have to state the reason. Once it is supported by 50 MPs, can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Now there can be another motion known as censure motion. What is that censure motion? The Lok Sabha members want to express extreme disapproval against a minister, because no confidence motion can be introduced only against the entire Council of Ministers. What you don't want to introduce against the entire Council of Ministers, only against an individual minister, only against Mr. Amit Shah, for example. You want to express extreme disapproval. For example, unfortunately, there may be riots in India, or there are terror blasts in India. There are some terrorist activities in India, which leads to the unfortunate deaths of various innocent civilians. Now, what the opposition will say, we want to express our extreme disapproval about the way Home Minister is functioning. He is not keeping India safe, because it is the job of the Home Minister to ensure internal security, to maintain internal security. And we want to express extreme disapproval against this minister because he has failed in performing his duty, which is to ensure internal security. 50 MPs should write to the Speaker, to the presiding officer, introducing the censure motion. But this time they have to state the reason. In no confidence motion, you don't have to say why you are introducing this motion, because it is clear we don't have the confidence in the Prime Minister. But in censure motion, why are you expressing extreme disapproval against a minister or the entire Council of Ministry? You have to give the reason. Once you give the reason, it's supported by 50 MPs, this censure motion can be introduced in Lok Sabha. If it is passed by simple majority, the government is censured, but may not resign. The term is may not resign. So you are censuring the minister, but collective responsibility is you swim and sink together. So if you have censured one minister by passing a censure motion, you are basically censuring and expressing extreme disapproval against the entire Council of Ministers. Now, what this Council of Ministers can do, they cannot take any policy decision. They cannot function. They have to drop everything else and get confidence of the Lok Sabha back, which means now the Prime Minister will have to introduce confidence motion. If that confidence motion is passed, Prime Minister survives. Otherwise, the Prime Minister has to resign. That means mere by passing a censure motion, Prime Minister need not resign. But since Council of Ministers swim and sink together, it means a vote of censure against an individual minister is the vote of censure against the entire Council of Ministers. So drop everything else. You can't take any policy decision. You have to seek the confidence of Lok Sabha again. Because it seems that you have lost the confidence of Lok Sabha. Otherwise, this censure motion would not have been passed. What if, for example, some members of the opposition, for example, the Congress, because Congress has more than 50 MPs, they introduce censure motion against the Home Minister. At that time, they did not get the support of other opposition political parties. Now they have introduced the censure motion inside the Lok Sabha, because censure motion can be introduced only in Lok Sabha, because Council of Ministers are responsible to only the Lok Sabha. Now they get the support of various other opposition political parties. Now, for example, BJD, for example, TMC, for example, DMK, AIA-DMK, and various other political parties, they also support the Congress. And they move something known as substitute motion. What is this substitute motion? That means this censure motion is currently pending in Lok Sabha. Congress, now you have our support. If the censure motion is passed, you will only be censuring the minister. We want the entire Council of Ministers to go. So what we will do, we will substitute the censure motion with no confidence motion. So that tomorrow, both censure motion moved by the Congress and the no confidence motion moved by other members of the opposition, both will be discussed in Lok Sabha. But voting will take place only on no confidence motion, because this no confidence motion has substituted the censure motion. So on this no confidence motion, now voting will take place. And if this no confidence motion is passed, the Prime Minister has to resign. Which means one type of motion is substantive motion, which stands on its own legs, which has its independent character, which is a very important matter. No confidence motion, confidence motion, impeachment motion. But what if you want to substitute one motion with another motion? Censure motion is substituted with no confidence motion. That means what will have primacy now? What will have more weight now? No confidence motion, because it has substituted the censure motion. Parliament will discuss both. Lok Sabha will discuss both. But ultimately will vote on no confidence motion because it has substituted censure motion. That's a substitute motion. Or there is something known as subsidiary motion. And what is this subsidiary motion? Let's say, for example, there is a bill. This bill talks about increasing the marriageable age for women. Clear? What is substantive motion? Which stands on its own legs, which has an independent character, identity. What is substitute motion? A motion which is already pending is substituted by another motion. That means this substitute motion is dependent on something. It does not stand on its own legs. There is something known as subsidiary motion. What is the subsidiary motion? I told you, to do anything in Parliament, you need to take the leave of the House, leave of the presiding officer, permission of the presiding officer. Now there is a bill pending in the Lok Sabha, pending in the Parliament, which talks about increasing the marriageable age of women from current 18 to 21. I get up. Dear Speaker, I have a subsidiary motion. What is that subsidiary motion? This particular bill, please refer it to Select Committee of the Parliament. This particular bill, please refer it to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. This particular bill, please refer to elicit public opinion. This particular bill, please let's debate this bill, let's vote on this bill. So you are referring to a matter which is pending in the parliament. That is called subsidiary motion. That means subsidiary motion, it does not have any independent existence. It is dependent on some other business which is taking place, some other agenda which is already taking place. Please refer this bill to parliamentary committee. That is a subsidiary motion. But not all these motions are voted upon. Because when I say please refer this matter to the select committee, if the speaker accepts, this matter will be sent to the select committee without any need for any voting. But substantive motions are voted upon. Other motions may not be voted upon. Substantive motions are always voted upon. That's a motion. One more motion is adjournment motion. And please listen to me carefully. This is different to the adjournment we discussed previously. What is that adjournment? Brief interval in an ongoing session. Who has the power to adjourn the House? The presiding officer. Adjournment with date and time specified, adjournment sine die. But this is different adjournment. What is this adjournment? We have the agenda of the House. What is the agenda? Today we will discuss this marriage bill. Today we will discuss Israel-Hamas conflict. Today we will discuss what is happening along the line of actual control between India and China. That is the agenda. But something important has happened. A matter of urgent public importance. And what the opposition wants, if these 50 MPs of Lok Sabha, because adjournment motion also can be introduced only in Lok Sabha, because this is one tool through which Council of Ministers is kept under check by the Lok Sabha. Parliamentary democracy. So confidence motion, no confidence motion, censure motion, adjournment motion can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. If 50 members of Lok Sabha write to the speaker that, dear speaker, forget about this agenda. We don't want to discuss this. Adjourn this agenda and let's discuss a matter of urgent public importance. If this adjournment motion is accepted after getting the support of the 50 MPs of Lok Sabha, then what the speaker will do, this agenda is suspended, is adjourned. What is now discussed? A matter of urgent public importance. The discussion on this urgent matter of public importance cannot be less than 2.5 hours. That means we have to spend at least 2.5 hours to discuss this urgent matter of public importance. And after this adjournment motion, there is voting. If this adjournment motion is passed by simple majority, that means this agenda of the House is set aside, adjourned. We are discussing a matter of urgent public importance. If this adjournment motion is passed by simple majority, Council of Ministers is censured. Censured in the sense, now the government cannot take any policy decision. The government cannot carry on the normal activities of the government. It has to stop. It has to pause. It has to immediately seek confidence of Lok Sabha. Because through this no adjournment motion passage, we may get a sense that you have lost the confidence in Lok Sabha. Otherwise, this motion would not have been passed. And it is this adjournment motion which we also call as an extraordinary device. Because something extraordinary has happened. Agenda of the House is now being adjourned. Instead, we are discussing something extraordinary, a matter of urgent public importance. If this is passed, Council of Ministers is censured. They have to seek the confidence of Lok Sabha again. That's a motion. So motion is basically the opinion of the House. And motion can be substantive, substitute, subsidiary. Substantive motions are always voted upon. They are important matters which stand on their own legs. Others are dependent on something. You substitute an existing motion with a different motion. You say this particular bill should be referred to a select committee of the parliament. So basically, the subsidiary motion, substitute motion, is dependent on something which is present in the parliament. But resolution is a resolve of the house. All the resolutions are voted upon. If this resolution is introduced by a private member, we call it a private member's resolution. If this resolution is introduced by a minister, we call it a government resolution. If this resolution is introduced according to the provisions of the Constitution, or laws of the parliament, we call it a statutory resolution. Private members' resolution, government resolution is not binding on the government. Statutory resolution is binding on the government. What is the difference? Let me explain. We have a private member of parliament, whether Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Who is a private member? Somebody who's not a minister. If this private member is introducing a resolution, and remember, all resolutions are to be voted upon. Dear Speaker, I have a resolution. Oh, you are a private member. Yes, sir. Private member's resolution. What is the resolution? Let's declare Pakistan as a terror state. Now voting will take place, and now the House has resolved that Pakistan is a terrorist state. But I told you it is not binding on the government. That means if it was binding on the government, that means the government has to now take steps to implement this resolution. What are the steps? Recall the High Commissioner of India from Pakistan. Send all these diplomats of Pakistan in India back to Pakistan. Revoke the most favored nation status on Pakistan. Stop all activities with Pakistan, all diplomatic connections, economic connections, social ties with Pakistan, because now Pakistan is a terror state, and impose sanctions. But this is a private member's resolution. This is not binding on the government. Then we have a government resolution. And what is that government resolution? For example, 2011. Anna Hazare launched his campaign against corruption, India against corruption, IAC movement. What was the principal objective of this movement? Anna Hazare wanted Lokpal, which will investigate corruption allegations against the Prime Minister, against the ministers, against the bureaucrats as well. Because if CBI has to conduct investigation against a minister, CBI is under the government. Supreme Court called CBI, you are a caged parrot. You are parroting the words and thoughts of your own ministers. If CVC has to conduct an investigation, any other organization has to conduct an investigation, Enforcement Directorate has to conduct an investigation, they are all under the government. They will be partial towards them. We need an independent body which can investigate corruption allegations against the Prime Minister, against the ministers, against the civil servants. For that, we need an independent institution known as Lokpal. Protests continued. Anna Hazare went on fast unto death as well. But then he was given a glass of juice. Please break your fast because government has agreed. What has government agreed? Government has agreed that we will pass Lokpal in parliament. But Kejriwal, Manish Sisodia, Kiran Bedi and others, they said we need assurance because we don't trust you. Pranab Mukherjee was the minister. He said, what sort of assurance do you want? Kejriwal said, pass a resolution inside parliament that we are committed to passing a strong anti-corruption Lokpal. Pranab Mukherjee said, don't worry, we will introduce this resolution in the parliament. And this resolution will be introduced by me. I am a minister. So this is sense of the house. So in 2011, a government resolution moved by Mr. Pranab Mukherjee who was a minister. He called it sense of the house. The sense of the house is, the resolve of the house is, we are committed to pass a strong anti-corruption law called Lokpal. But even if Parliament would not have enacted this law, even if the government would not have introduced this bill in the Parliament, nothing would happen to the government, because this government resolution also is not binding on the government. But statutory resolution is. And what is that statutory resolution? Listen to me carefully. We have a judge of a high court or Supreme Court. He is to be removed. How is this judge removed? If a resolution is passed by both houses of the Parliament by special majority. The judge is to be removed, or CAG is to be removed, or Chief Election Commissioner is to be removed. For that, a resolution should be passed by both houses of the Parliament by special majority. This resolution is a statutory resolution. Why? Because this is according to the provisions of the Constitution. If this resolution is passed, ultimately, who has to remove the judge? President. President appoints a judge, President can remove a judge. President appoints CAG, President can remove CAG. President appoints Chief Election Commissioner, President can remove Chief Election Commissioner, but only on the grounds, only on the basis of the resolution passed by both houses of the Parliament. And once such resolution is passed, it is binding on the President. President cannot say, so what if a resolution was passed by both houses of the Parliament? It's not binding on me. No, it is binding on me. Why? Because it is a statutory resolution. Similarly, based on any law passed by the Parliament, if a resolution is passed under National Commission for Human Rights Act, under Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, then it is mandatory for the President to remove the chairperson of National Human Rights Commission, because this resolution is passed under a law passed by the Parliament. Long story short, we can say the statutory resolution is like a substantive motion which stands on its own legs. We can say all resolutions, if they are voted upon, which they are like substantive motions because they are also voted upon. So motion, once it is adopted, becomes the resolve of the House. Motion, once it is voted upon, which means a substantive motion, becomes a resolution. So what is a motion? It's the opinion of the House. What is the resolution? It's the resolve of the House. That completes our discussion on Union legislature. Now we will analyze it. How Parliament is actually functioning. Is it effective institution? What was the objective of the Constitution? Listen to me carefully. That Parliament as a legislature should control the executive through questions, through supplementary questions, through motions, through resolutions, through debate, through budget. Through all these tools, Parliament should exercise control over the executive, which means legislature should control the executive. But you know what the reality is? Executive controls Parliament. Particularly when this executive commands brute majority in parliament. Massive majority in the parliament. For example, today, the BJP, which was part of the executive, the ministers who are part of the executive, they command massive majority in Lok Sabha. They command majority in Rajya Sabha as well, although not absolute majority, but they have a significant majority. And once this executive has majority, a brute majority, it basically controls the legislature. How does it control the legislature? Number one, more than half of the bills and there is a website known as PRS which says 3/4 of the bill are passed by parliament without being referred to select committee. The three codes which the government wants to change, for example, the Indian Penal Code, for example, the Criminal Procedure Code, for example, the Indian Evidence Act, these are the three things that the government wants to replace. And this matter has been sent to the select committee of the parliament. You give us your report, and in the select committee, there will be members from the opposition as well. Basically, you will debate, dissect all the three bills. Mr. P. Chidambaram is asking for more time because he is also part of that committee. Give us more time so that we can understand all these codes and come up with a better solution, come up with a better law, come up with a better bill. Then we have another matter, increase in the marriageable age of women from 18 to 21. This matter is also referred to the select committee. Barring these two, give me one name, give me one instance where a matter was referred to a select committee. Which means executive, once it is introducing a bill, without referring this bill to a select committee, ultimately what is happening? The way executive wants, the same kind of bill will be passed by the parliament. Is parliament functioning? Lack of quality debates, also thanks to anti-defection law. Just witness the proceedings of the parliament previously. You can still access the transcripts of all the debates that have happened inside the parliament. And you see the quality of debates that used to happen inside the parliament. Fantastic debates. Or let's not go back in the past to 1950s or 60s. Look at when Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when a no confidence motion was introduced against Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And that video is available on YouTube. And look at the way everybody listened to Mr. Vajpayee. Everybody listened to Mr. Pramod Mahajan when he said something spectacular inside the Lok Sabha. There used to be quality debates. That's what Voltaire said. I disagree with you, but I will defend till death your right to say it. Disagree with each other. That's the beauty of democracy. Opposition and the government should not agree to each other, 100%. But let's have quality debate. And what are we witnessing inside the parliament? Shouting, sloganeering, chairs thrown at each other, abuses as well. And recently we saw a member of the ruling party calling the fellow member a terrorist. Such is the quality of debate. And one reason for that is anti-defection law, because a legislator cannot take his own independent decision on a bill. If my party has said, no, you have to oppose citizenship amendment bill, I can't support it, despite the fact that I may want to support this bill. So when my conscience says I should support this bill, but my party says you have to vote against this bill, I will not participate in the debate. Because what's the point? I have to in any case vote against this bill. So the quality of debates have also reduced in the parliament. One reason is anti-defection law. Not just this. Bills passed by voice vote without debates. The three farm laws, when they were passed without debate. No debate took place. Because the executive has the majority, you do whatever you want to do. Even if there is pandemonium, even if there is ruckus, even if there is indiscipline in the parliament, we will still get the bills passed without debate. And when the three farm laws were repealed, also without debate. And in 7 minutes, the bill was passed. It took 7 minutes for the speaker to say, on this particular bill, let's have a voting. All those who are in agreement may say A. All those who are in disagreement may say no. I think the A's have it. The A's have it. The bill is repealed. The law is repealed. Law number 1 is repealed. Law number 2 is repealed. Law number 3 is repealed without debate. The government was asked why there was no debate. The government said, now we are repealing the law. What is the need for debate? When the law was passed, why did the debate not happen? Because opposition is not letting the parliament function. And why is parliament not being allowed to function by the opposition? There has to be a reason. What is the reason? Every member of the parliament has freedom of speech. No matter what you say inside the parliament, how you give vote inside the parliament, you will not be held accountable in any court of law. What is this practice? This is a British convention. This is the British practice that we follow in India. Our constitution, we say, this is the bag of borrowings. We have borrowed provisions from different constitutions of the world. DPSP from Irish constitution, fundamental duty from USSR, Japanese constitution, USSR constitution, USSR constitution. We have borrowed procedure established by law from the Japanese constitution. We have borrowed concurrent list from Australia. We have borrowed cabinet form of government from Canada, from Britain. We have borrowed so many things from different constitutions of the world. Here also we should borrow something from Britain. Do you know why parliament is not functioning or not functioning effectively? Because opposition wants prime minister to speak. Opposition says prime minister is disregarding the parliament. He is not coming to the parliament. Even if he comes, he does not answer any questions that we pose him. If he can speak his Man Ki Baat on All India Radio, why can't he listen to us inside the Lok Sabha? So one reason why parliament is being disrupted, the reason is prime minister is not speaking, or prime minister is not answering the questions of the opposition. Why can't we have a British practice where it is mandatory for prime minister to speak and answer queries every Friday? Let's make it mandatory for the prime minister. Dear prime minister, when you are not traveling to North Pole, South Pole and others, you should come to Lok Sabha every Friday. You should go to Rajya Sabha also, because the ministers keep on traveling from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha. So you should answer questions in Rajya Sabha as well. Although your government is not accountable to Rajya Sabha, but in Rajya Sabha we have the members answer their questions. Why can't we make it mandatory for the prime minister to speak every Friday and answer the questions of the parliamentarians? Look at the lively debate that we can have inside parliament. Look at how you can keep the executive accountable. So the kind of questions which prime minister does not wish to answer, those questions he will have to answer on the floor of the parliament. Because clearly we don't want questions like questions asked by Akshay Kumar to Mr. Modi. Aap aam kaise khate hain? How do you eat mangoes? Do you like mangoes? These kind of questions we don't want. We don't wish to know from the prime minister. That is another problem. Another problem. Business Advisory Committee. Business Advisory Committee is headed by the Speaker. Members are added based on proportional representation system. which means if BJP has more than 50 MPs, 50% MPs, 50% members of Business Advisory Committee will be from BJP. And it is this BSC which decides the agenda. It is this Business Advisory Committee which decides what is the amount of time that we can give to political parties to speak on important matters. Can we not say, because opposition has been protesting inside the parliament recently, that we want a debate on Manipur issue? We want a debate on India-China LAC issue. We want a debate on some other important matters, a rising inflation, a rising unemployment. But who decides the agenda of the parliament? Business Advisory Committee, which is dominated by the ruling party, which means executive is controlling the legislature. Why can't we allocate one day every week and discuss the opposition agenda? Because today the opposition is saying, we would have supported you on this bill, we would have debated this bill, but we are blocking the parliament because parliamentary obstructionism is my right, according to Mr. Jaitley. The government is saying you are not allowing parliament to function, we have important bills to pass, you are not cooperating. Both are blaming each other. Why can't we have a unique solution where if parliament functions for 5 days in a week, first 4 days, give to the government. All bills that you want to pass, we will support you. We will debate, we will discuss. We may disagree with you, we may vote against that bill, but we will debate, we will participate, we will not block the parliament, we will not obstruct the parliament. But on Friday, or one day which is allocated to us, you will have to debate our agenda. So we will put Manipur on the agenda, we will have to discuss, so that this executive cannot run away from this debate. Why can't we do that? So there are some innovative steps that we have to take to make parliament function the way it should. There was a time when Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill was to be passed in the parliament. There was a delegation from Bhutan which had come to India to witness parliamentary proceedings. And we make them witness something spectacular, where the members of parliament started spraying pepper on each other. Such a ruckus was created that ultimately Lok Sabha TV, when it was Lok Sabha TV then, Lok Sabha TV separate, Rajya Sabha TV separate, now it is Sansad TV. Lok Sabha TV had to stop the broadcast of these proceedings. And we told the delegation from Bhutan, this is how it is done. But for that, people will have to play a very important role. Maybe not re-elect those MPs who are creating ruckus inside the parliament, who are not letting parliament function. Because ultimately, the ultimate power lies with the people of India. There's a bigger issue related to Rule 267 of Rajya Sabha. Partisan approach of the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Who is the chairperson of Rajya Sabha? The vice president. Why was this Mr. Dankar elected as the vice president, even nominated as the vice presidential candidate? Because he made life miserable for Mamta Didi. Let there be no other doubt. That was his biggest qualification. And now Mr. Dankar is now sitting on the chair of the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. Previously, what used to happen? When Hamid Ansari was the chairperson as the vice president, when Shankar Dayal Sharma was the vice president, all these vice presidents would use a tool known as Rule 267. For example, Rule 267 was used in 2016 to discuss demonetization. When Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma was the vice president, Discussion happened on the Gulf War, the Iraq-Kuwait war, also included United States, which led to severe balance of payment crisis in India. Under Rule 267, if a member of Rajya Sabha says you have to suspend the agenda and discuss an important matter, just like in Lok Sabha, we have adjournment motion, where the agenda is adjourned and we discuss a matter of urgent public importance. Similar to that, we have Rule 267 in Rajya Sabha, where if the opposition wants, the normal agenda of the House can be suspended so that we are discussing a matter of urgent public importance. For that, all an MP has to do issue a notice to the speaker, to the chairperson of Rajya Sabha under Rule 267, so that the normal agenda is suspended. We discuss a matter of urgent public importance. And this has happened when demonetization discussion was allowed under Rule 267. When the discussion on Gulf War was allowed in 1991, it has been used 11 times since 1990. 11 times since 1990. 11 times the Rajya Sabha's agenda was suspended to discuss a matter of public importance. And since 2016, how many times has this rule been used? Zero. Never used by Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu when he was the chairperson. Never used by Mr. Dankar. Repeatedly notices are given, and Mr. Dankar says, I cannot suspend rule every day. Said 100%. Don't suspend every day. At least once a month, once a session, once a year. Now we are almost closing a decade and we have never used Rule 267. And for that, we need non-partisan chairpersons, non-partisan presiding officers, which is like a pipe dream, which may or may not happen. But that is not something that you can write in your answers. This won't ever happen in India. The examiner would call you pessimist. You're not fit for civil services. You will lose marks. So be optimist in your answers. And that completes our discussion on union legislature. Any questions, let me know. But if the government does not have the majority, for example, Mr. Vajpayee did not have the majority in 1998-99, he resigned. Mr. Kamal Nath did not have the majority in Madhya Pradesh, he resigned. Mr. Yediyurappa did not have the majority on the floor of the Legislative Assembly, he resigned. Not a minister. He enjoys the rank of a cabinet minister, but he is not a minister. As the President of India in the absence of the President. Ministers. Lok Sabha is involved. Why Council of Ministers? Because you have to seek the approval of the Parliament to withdraw money. Every state also has its own home minister, finance minister, agriculture minister, except defense minister or external affairs minister, because that's under the control of the center. You have these ministers at the state level as well. Motion. If a member of a party is violating this whip, will be disqualified. Lokpal and Lokayukta, we will discuss that in governance. So in governance, we will discuss what is governance, what is accountability, what is transparency. And in accountability, we will discuss Lokpal, Lokayukta, CAG. In transparency, we will discuss Right to Information Act. We'll discuss Citizens Charter. That will be in governance. 5 years of the time left. If the government resigns, then the new government is formed. But is this government formed from the existing Lok Sabha? If yes, then for the remainder of the term. If this new government is formed after the fresh election, then they will remain for 5 years. There are some topics in Parliament, for example, what is a calling attention motion? What is point of order? Please go through Lakshmikant, read these points. These are factual things. If you need my explanation, I will give you the explanation. But for that, you send me a mail. Otherwise, if you have understood, then we don't have to waste time discussing factual things. We can discuss something analytical in the class. So please go through the entire Union Parliament, Union Legislature chapter, Indian Parliament chapter from Lakshmikant. Any doubt that you have, please reach out to me. Financial Bill Type 2. Financial Bill Type 1 is the same financial bill that we discussed under Article 117, which means a financial bill contains some money matters plus non-money matters as well. That makes it a financial bill. It can be introduced only in Lok Sabha with the prior recommendation of the president, but then it can be passed by Lok Sabha. If it is not passed by the Lok Sabha, nothing happens to the government. It can be sent to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has equal role as compared to Lok Sabha on a financial bill. Rajya Sabha can reject a financial bill, amend a financial bill, or send the bill back for reconsideration, or not act on the financial bill for 6 months. And at the end, there is a deadlock. And to resolve the deadlock, there is a joint sitting. And the president can also either give his assent or withhold his assent or send the financial bill back or also use pocket veto. That is financial bill. But then we have financial bill type 2, which is like an ordinary bill. And this ordinary bill can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. No prior recommendation of president is required. Should be passed by both houses of the parliament by simple majority. In case of a deadlock, there can be a joint sitting. The only thing is, one, it contains withdrawal of money from Consolidated Fund of India. That means it has one clause. It talks about withdrawal of money from Consolidated Fund of India. That's it. In all other aspects, it is governed by ordinary law. It is governed by ordinary bill. That means it can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Financial bill type 1 can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. But financial bill type 2, although it does talk about withdrawal of money from Consolidated Fund of India, but it is an ordinary bill. It can be introduced in Lok Sabha, it can be introduced in Rajya Sabha. And same procedure of ordinary law, ordinary bill is governing financial bill type 2 as well. The only other difference is it cannot be considered for voting unless president recommends it. Money bill and financial bill, without approval of the president, you can't introduce this bill in Lok Sabha. But financial bill type 2 can be introduced without the recommendation of the president. But if it is to be passed in Lok Sabha, the president will send a notice to Lok Sabha, please consider passing this bill. After that, Lok Sabha will vote. In Rajya Sabha, when this bill will be put to vote, president will say, please consider passage of this bill, because it involves expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India. That is the only reason. Otherwise, it is an ordinary bill. That is financial bill type 2. Difference between finance bill and financial bill. Finance bill is the money bill. Financial bill is a bill with money matters plus non-money matters as well, under Article 117. Finance bill comes under annual financial statement. It is part of the revenue side, finance. Let's look at the questions. The Parliament of India exercises control over the functions of the Council of Ministers through adjournment motion, question hours, supplementary questions. Over the functions of Council of Ministers through adjournment motion, yes. to discuss a matter of urgent public importance. If it is passed, Council of Ministers is censured. Parliament exercising control over the executive through question hour, asking questions, starred, unstarred, short duration question, asking supplementary questions as well. D, 1, 2, 3 is the right answer. A bill questions carefully. 47% students are right. A bill pending in Lok Sabha lapses on its dissolution. If this session has been terminated, we will take up this bill in the next session. It's only a bill which is originating in Lok Sabha and is pending in Lok Sabha. If Lok Sabha is dissolved, then this bill lapses. This is incorrect. Dissolution of Lok Sabha, this is correct. Only 2B is the right answer. Now, this is some following statements regarding a simple majority of members present and voting. A motion of no confidence motion. Judge whether you have the confidence or not. For that, we have rules. And these rules mention confidence motion, no confidence motion. These rules mention question hour. These rules do not mention 0 hour. That's something that I told you as well. A motion of no confidence can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. This is correct. If a money bill is substantially amended, we make recommendation seconds because some Lok Sabha may still proceed with the bill, accepting or not accepting the recommendations of Rajya Sabha. So in the option, the term is used rightly, recommendation, but in the question, amendment is used. Ship of 2014 also. Okay. Prime Minister would be confused. 51. And in 1951, who was the Prime Minister? Jawaharlal Nehru. Let's look at some of the mains-based questions. 1. The powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament and its members, as envisaged in Article 105 of the Constitution, leave room for a large number of uncodified and unenumerated privileges to continue. Assess the reasons for the absence of legal codification of parliamentary privileges. How can this problem be addressed? Also, look at the year this question was asked, 2014. This was the year when Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Bill was passed by the Parliament. And at that time, there was an MP from Andhra Pradesh who came inside the Parliament with a pepper spray and started spraying pepper on the other members. And this is when the debate came that how did this member of Parliament enter the Parliament with this pepper spray? It could have been a gun. It could have been any other weapon. Then we realized that they have a privilege. The privilege is, if you are a member of the Parliament, while entering the Parliament, you are not frisked. You are not checked. So you could have entered the Parliament with gun as well, and nobody could touch you. And this is when newspapers and various authors and activists started writing columns saying we need a law which should codify all these parliamentary privileges. Because the powers, privileges, immunities which are mentioned under Article 105 leave room for large number of uncodified and unenumerated privileges to continue. For example, is it mentioned in Article 105 that a legislator cannot be arrested 40 days before and 40 days after the session of the Parliament? That you cannot be arrested or you don't have to go for a jury service when the Parliament is in session? All these privileges are not mentioned. But these are the British privileges which we have continued in India. So the reason is because there is no law, the lack of a law. How can this problem be addressed? By enacting a law which should codify all these parliamentary privileges. And here you will also have to cite the judgment of the court in CBI versus PV Narasimha Rao, where the judiciary has legalized, institutionalized bribery as well. Because you cannot be prosecuted in any court of law for any vote that you give or anything that you say inside the Parliament. For example, in 2008, there was another cash for vote scam where there were members of opposition. It was alleged that Amar Singh is responsible for this, who basically were given money to vote for Dr. Manmohan Singh. Ultimately, an ethics committee headed by Pawan Kumar Bansal, who was the Congress MP from Chandigarh constituency, he presided over this session, this meeting of the ethics committee, and ultimately action was taken against 10 MPs. But no action was taken against them in the court of law because of this privilege that you cannot be held accountable in any court of law. Clear? So that requires a law to be passed. The Indian Constitution has provisions for holding joint sessions of the two houses of the parliament. Enumerate the occasions when this would normally happen and also the occasions when it cannot, with the reasons thereof. This question was asked in 2017, and 2017 was the year GST was implemented in India. GST as a concept was pending in India for many years. It is considered to be the brainchild of Mr. Vajpayee, but could not be passed because there was no consensus. Because to enact GST, to pass GST, you needed a constitutional amendment. You needed ratification by states as well. So you needed to convince the states, you needed to cooperate with the states, and ultimately come up with the goods and services tax. That could not happen even during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. And that could not happen even during the first few years of Mr. Modi. Then there was a suggestion that if we don't have the majority in Rajya Sabha, because the BJP did have the majority in Lok Sabha but not in Rajya Sabha, we should call a joint sitting of the two houses to pass the GST. But then very soon it was realized that you can't have a joint sitting on GST. Why? Because GST is a constitutional amendment bill. And a constitutional amendment bill, because it is very important, because Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha has equal role, we cannot have a joint sitting on a constitutional amendment bill. We cannot have a joint sitting on a money bill. We can have a joint sitting on an ordinary bill, on a financial bill, but not on other bills. Enumerate the occasions when this would normally happen. The joint sitting of the two houses, where both the members of the parliament assemble at the central hall of Indian Parliament to discuss those bills on which deadlock has arisen. This joint sitting is notified by the president, but following are the instances where the joint sitting may be notified by the President of India. 1. In case of an ordinary bill. B. In case of a financial bill. Cannot happen in case of a constitutional amendment bill, in case of a money bill. Because in money bill, Rajya Sabha has an inferior role as compared to Lok Sabha. Because no taxation without representation. And a constitutional amendment bill, according to the constitution, should be passed by both houses of the parliament separately. So there is no provision of joint sitting. Joint sitting has been held 3 times in the past. On the dowry bill, on the banking regulation bill, on POTA. Question is over. Answer is over. In the past few decades, highlight the factors as well as the areas in which this transformation could be visible. It was thought that Rajya Sabha is a useless stepney tire. A vehicle has a stepney tire which you don't normally use, only when there is one tire punctures. But even then, you go to a puncture shop, you fix the puncture, you don't even use the stepney. But over the period of time, Rajya Sabha has emerged from this useless stepney tire to a most useful supporting organ. What are the reasons responsible for that? The government lacking majority in Rajya Sabha, the emergence and dominance of regional political parties, and their strength in Rajya Sabha, because MLAs, they vote to elect their MPs in Rajya Sabha. And since there is a rise of regional political parties, their dominance in state politics, thereby they dominate Rajya Sabha as well. And now these political parties, they bargained with the ruling party at the center. These are the factors which are responsible. And this factor has been responsible in the passage of various important bills. For example, we have passed bills such as NI Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. We have also witnessed over the past few decades how Rajya Sabha has allowed Parliament to legislate on state subjects, how Article 249 has been used, and how some bills were stalled in Rajya Sabha. Basically, I told you in the class that when we discussed Rajya Sabha, what was the need to have the second chamber of Indian Parliament? We said Rajya Sabha is the House of Elders. Lok Sabha is the House of the People. It's a popular chamber. Any illegitimate demand or any popular demand which is coming from the people, Lok Sabha members have no other option but to fulfill that illegitimate demand or a popular demand. But if it is not in the interest of the people of India, Rajya Sabha will sit on this bill, will not act on this bill, will delay the passage of the bill till the tempers cool down. And that is how Rajya Sabha has emerged as a very useful supporting organ. And this is reflective on the number of bills which were considered to be not in the interest of not in the interest of the people. For example, mandatory death sentence. For example, striping juveniles of their rights. Such bills were stalled by Rajya Sabha. That is how Rajya Sabha has transformed from a useless stepney tire to the most useful supporting organ in the past few decades. And the reason is the emergence of and the dominance of regional political parties. That's it for today. We will meet tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And tomorrow we will discuss state machinery. We will discuss emergency provisions. We will discuss the schedules of the Constitution. These are very, very important topics for your examination. And related to them, we will discuss previous year's question papers as well, which we could not complete today. So please do not miss tomorrow's class. Please, please come and attend the class at 7 a.m. It is for your benefit after all. Of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. This will happen since tomorrow is a Saturday. And normally we don't have a class on Saturday, but we will have a class on Saturday. That is why we have to announce it. Is the discretionary power. Everything else she has to do on the advice of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Means a resolution introduced by a member who is not a minister. Even a nominated member can give a resolution, introduce a resolution. That will also be a private member's resolution. Appointed the senior most member of Lok Sabha as the Speaker pro tem. Money grants is not granted after the expenditure by department. It is done. We have never witnessed a situation where it was not done. Since the government has the majority, it will always prevail. If he occupies that post. If the Vice President is acting as the President of India, he enjoys all the powers that are available to the President. There is no power which he cannot enjoy, which the President was enjoying previously. Because right now he is the President of India. That you will have to ask them. Or maybe the choice of candidates also. We haven't seen a president who will come across as a strong president who will exercise his powers, who will not be under the influence of the prime minister and council of ministers. Because let's accept this. After all, this prime minister, president is nominated by the ruling party. Ruling party has the majority. So basically, the ruling party will want to choose a candidate who will not tomorrow exercise his powers, who will be under the impact, under the influence of the prime minister. AC will not have any minister as a member, but it will have members from the ruling party. But the assumption is these members of the ruling party will go above the party lines and will not be subservient to their party interests, but instead would be subservient to the parliamentary interests. Best, good, bad. If you have no questions to ask, you may leave. We will meet tomorrow.